Hello everyone, Yannick for Kansan Precision Shooting. Today we are making a video about drop confirmation. So most people underestimate the importance of having a reliable drop by collecting data on previous engagement, what we call dope. The idea is to have a confirmation that the predicted drop curve of your bullet matches the reality. I recently went out for this exact purposes, having doubts my BC was off. And so I decided to document and made a video about what happening and how to solve this kind of issue. So what we'll go into the video is how to see if your data work, and if not, how to make it align with the actual drop of your bullet. For the French, there is a podcast available on the subject and the link will be in the description. So it can be frustrating to miss a target just under or over it when your rim reading is good and you break clean and stable shot. Over that, it is sometimes hard to correct for it when on time without losing much point. In my experience, you usually don't make correction on the first miss due to a wrong drop. You'll think it's due to unstable position, bad trigger pull, or a shot upwind. So you will take a couple shots before understanding what is happening. And so here is how to avoid that. First of all, you'll have to go to the range. The further is the best. Personally, as much as PRS are within like 1200 yards, I decided to do my testing up to 1200 yards. So you start by inputting all the information into your app, the app of your choice, Kestrel or whatever, and remember, garbage in, garbage out as usual. So make sure to put all the right information from your rifle, your scope height, and all the environmental data you have. Now to set up your range session. So you will need an accurate device to give you the muzzle velocity. I was bringing my Labrador LX and a new unit with an upgraded software that was also giving me a BC number. I'll come back to this part later. So what we need first is a good, reliable device that's going to give us the speed of our bullet. You will also need big targets with a line in the middle, what we call a water line. In a perfect world, you will put a target every 100 or 200 yards, starting around 400, up to the distance you choose to test. If you don't have access to multiple targets, you can also just put one and walk your way back, stopping every 100 to 200 yards to take a few shots and collect the data. As I said, I like to use big target as it prevents from fighting the wind, and so you'll save a couple shots over the day. So for my day at the range, we did put targets at 400, 600, 8, 9, and 1000. And then we moved to another range to get the 1200 yards confirmation. Don't forget to put a board at 100 yards. Your zero will have big influence to your correction downrange. So once you're ready, confirm your zero and engage all target with a previous accessible drop. Make the correction to be on the waterline at every target and take note of the elevation needed at every distances you have. You will want to get at least 3 shots that are averaging on the waterline of your target before moving on. Make sure to shoot all the target, all the distances before playing with your data. So once it's done, the fun to line up everything begins. Usually what I prefer to do is going into this order for truing the data. First of all, muzzle velocity, then ballistic coefficient, and then the DSF. If you have a Kestrel or any other way to change the drop or a BC at a specific distance, depending the app you have. I try to avoid this last step unless it is really needed and you can't find a way to tune the drop with the muzzle velocity and the ballistic coefficient. So step 1. If you have a reliable device to measure the speed of the bullets as they exit the muzzle of your rifle, usually I will not try to true the muzzle velocity unless you are way off in your correction within the first 600 yards. So step 2 will be to adjust the BC to fit the drop. Usually, if your ballistic coefficient is wrong, it will show at longer distances, 600 yards and more. So here's a table to help us compare when to play with muzzle velocity or ballistic coefficient. In this example, I've had 200 feet per second to a known load compared to 40 point of BC G7. Those numbers are quite high just to show you the kind of difference and where to expect them. The speed will have an impact past 600 yards, as you can see, but it will also have inaccurate drop under 600 yards, where the BC almost only show the difference past 600. On a side note, for those who like to chase the speed of the cartridge, I added at the bottom line the wind effect at 1000 yards, 10 miles per hour full value. So even if the drop doesn't look as good, if you use a higher BC, you will fight the wind way better. So that's the end of the side note. So now back to the topic. If your drop is fine or less than a tenth, so 0.1 milliradian under 600 yards, I will only touch and play with the ballistic coefficient. If you're off under 600 yard target, start by tuning the muzzle velocity. To make it easier, once you have all the data collected on a simple card or a piece of paper, step back, stop shooting, and start playing with your app or your Kestrel with one data point, like one distance at a time, until the drop fit the target. Then go to the next target or distances and so on, checking if you can make them all line up correctly. As I said earlier, if your device measuring the speed is good quality and reliable, you'll usually end up only playing with your ballistic coefficient. So for myself that day, I got pretty lucky to be testing Labradar's new software for the Helix that also provide a ballistic coefficient over a certain number of shots. I was really skeptical at first, but after shooting all the target just to collect the data, I was low on everything, mostly past 600 yards. So after about 30 shots, I was done getting the data on the waterline. So I checked the BC provided by the Helix, which was about 20 points lower than what I had in my Kestrel at that time. So I input this new information into the Kestrel, and to my surprise, all my dope lined up magically up to 1200 yards. So I got really lucky for that. I saved a lot of time playing with the BC or checking the muzzle velocity or stuff like that. It just did work. The update should be available pretty soon, as Labradar will have already announced it, so let's see when it happens. In the case you are not that lucky with the speed and the BC tuning, or you're shooting rimfire, which is a bit more finicky to get the drop lined up, even combining both muzzle velocity and ballistic coefficient, there is still a solution that, as I said before, you should try to avoid as long as you can. And this is playing with the DSF and the Kestrel, but most applications now have a place where you can tune the drop, and to do so, go to a certain distances and tell the app what the right correction is. This will force a new drop at this distance, and it will try to get the data into a curve. This will obviously going to change the curve itself, so get a second distance you have and provide the app with another data point and so on until either everything line up or you have input all the information you have. I do try to avoid the DSF as it does force and change the curve at specific point. Sometimes it's also changing the curve at place you don't want it to. But it's a last hope when you get a finicky drop that you have a hard time to line up. So that's about it. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and let me know if you have some question remaining on the subject, and see you all at the range.